We are. Hello.
Waiting for it to flip.
Flip,
There it is.
flip.
Finally, hey!
Yay!
That is absolutely hilarious. First chat ever, 15 minutes late.
Hey, more late than ever.
Oh, God.
What is that? Is that me?
Could be.
Holy Christ.
Click if it does that again. Just click mute on StreamYard, and that'll fix it, and then you can unmute.
Okay.
So how's everyone doing?
Living the dream. What about you?
Uh-oh. Big Johnson, that's you, buddy.
Everything.
We're in the field.
It's the voice of God.
Oh, man.
Hello?
You're doing it on me?
Hello?
That's Big Johnson. Plug in earphones if you can or something like that, buddy.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah. Is your microphone right next to speakers? Whatever. Like turn your volume down a little bit.
It's not me.
It's absolutely you.
Yeah, it's you.
I got headphones in, man.
Is anybody else doing it? Yeah, dude, you sound like you're in the longest speaker of all time. This is what you get, folks. Good production value.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, mute yourself. There you go. All right.
Okay, I muted Big Johnson.
Well, guys, how's it going? We'll try and kick this thing off.
All right.
Just wave at me if you want me to unmute you or if you want to mute yourself or whatever.
What's new in the gun world for everybody, guys?
I've got a bunch of stuff coming to me, actually, but I'll let you guys go first.
Go ahead, KS.
So I'm working on the CMMG Banshee. That video is actually done. So I think that might launch this weekend. I haven't decided yet. And working on the If I Could Only Have One between the Shadow and the Legion X5, so I can get that over to somebody else. So all of that is just about wrapped up. And then after that, I'm not sure which direction I'm going to go. So we'll see.
I have a couple of things that I'm still waiting for that are, pending the release of my little permission slips from the judges. I've got the Caracol, which has been around now for approximately 6 weeks, and I still have not gotten my little permission slip. So I've been waiting for that one for 6 weeks now. And I have I don't even remember what else because I can't get anything. I got a couple more guns. I can't even remember what the hell they are. The Masada. And then something else I forgot. But I also have the Ruger PC, which I haven't shot. I'm going to try to shoot that sometime this week and just get, a bearing on it and see what I think about it. So that's about it.
Nice.
So before we do that, I should introduce everybody because I guess it's the first time on my channel. Mm-hmm. And so these are also fellow YouTubers. They all do gun reviews. If you don't know any of them, feel free to go check out their channels. Big Johnson's the guy who's currently muted. 1776 does awesome videos on Berettas and all kinds of crazy stuff. And KS Gun Guy does gun reviews also. So, yeah. So we're just going to be on here doing the same thing we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. We're just going to do it on my channel for the first time. And the technical difficulties are my fault. I'm a hillbilly from Iowa, and my computer froze, and we were working on that.
I know the sad part is your internet actually looks better than my internet, and I'm on the East Coast, where we actually have like technology.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I get my internet from a water tower 3 miles away.
See if it'll work.
What?
Is it working?
No, you're still echoing.
Pretty echoey, buddy.
Man, I'm not doing anything different that I don't do every week.
Is it on my end?
Better now?
Nope, you're still echoing.
All right.
He's just done. He's like, screw this.
I would be. I was almost done before it started.
So Red Rider is asking if I'm going to do a Duncan versus Starbucks for video soon. That would be an if I could only have one, and yes, I will definitely do that. Duncan all the way, man.
So Art Imla asked me if and when am I going to get that 92 back? So I actually just got confirmation that it was received by the party that is going to be doing the work on it. So they're not doing any internal work. They're doing Cerakoting and some stippling on that ridiculously smooth wraparound grip that they came out with on that gun. So, hopefully that'll be back a couple of weeks. At least I hope so. But I'm totally looking forward to it. And it's going to be a 100% safe queen. I mean, I'll shoot it, but it's never going to be carried.
How dare you? There should be no safe queens.
Yeah, but do you know that gun is it's such an oddball that you can't find them. So I don't want to destroy it, but I got a bunch of crap from Wilson's Combat I always say Wilson Combat that I'm going to be putting in as I redo everything inside. So I just got a hammer spring for it today. I got front sight for it, short reset trigger. So I can't even remember what else. I can't remember. Oh, and the trigger spring. So once that gun comes back, hopefully it'll be like a rocket. That's what I'm kind of hoping for.
Nice. I'm getting a couple Ed Brown 1911s from Ed Brown, was pretty cool. Getting some guns from KS. I'm getting IWI Musada. Like every cool thing. I get a VP9 build coming, and I'm thinking about getting a Rex Delta. What do you guys think of that?
KS has experience. You did that, right, KS?
Yeah, it's my favorite actually ever. I couldn't include it on the top 10 list because it was just so much better.
I believe that's a little sarcasm for those folks who don't realize that.
I admittedly did not dig that gun very much at all. It was just not for me, not my cup of tea.
All right,
if you don't mind, yeah, you're not echoing that. Doesn't sound like
headphones.
What's going on?
Those headphones don't fit your face, though. You look cute.
I try.
So if you guys don't mind, we could go through a few patron questions. I got a bunch.
Sure, man. Go for it. It's your channel. Your channel, your talk.
Yeah, but it's a group effort.
True.
All right, so the first one is ask 1776 if he's ever going to stop kissing men. That's from Rabbi.
It's Rabbi Jesus. I already know. You don't have to tell me that. That's a total normal one. I think the problem is that he's projecting his own interest onto me. So that's a big no.
Okay. We have any 10 millimeter pistol reviews in the forecast for any of us?
I mean, I would love to get my hands on one. I just, I've got to be very, very delicate with the funds. So for me, no, unless somebody wants to send me one. But then it'll take 3 years for you to get it back.
I think I still have one from Rock Island. I'll just send it to you.
Okay. I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
I don't think they'll notice. I know. Yeah, no, just did one actually. A couple months ago? It was one of the Rock Islands, the TAC Ultra 10 millimeter, and it's a phenomenal firearm. I've enjoyed the 10 millimeter. I mean, you can definitely tell you're shooting them, but they're a lot of fun, and I think they pair very well with a heavy steel firearm like a full size 1911, something like that. It kind of takes the edge off a little bit. You still can enjoy that power and punch, and to have some controllability there as well. I mean, I actually would really like to try a Glock 29 or something like that. But I have a feeling that would be pretty snappy firearm. So, 10 millimeter, they're great. I'd like to try one in a pistol caliber carbine. I bet that would be fantastic as well.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
You gonna get that X-Star? The X-Star's got a 10 mil coming out.
Nice. I'm kind of waiting to see if CMMG is going to do one. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I've shot them before, but I mean, they're not anything special to me.
Okay, so next question. What are your thoughts on trigger guard lasers for concealed carry? I'm going to go with I don't like them because I don't use lasers, but it's good for older people, I think.
I'm not I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of lasers very much. I'm okay with red dots, that sort of thing, but lasers have just never been on my bucket list. I think they could be probably a good training aid to a certain degree because you can really tell where you're moving the muzzle around while you're shooting and all that. But I'm not a big fan of lasers. I'd rather take up the space and the weight with a light. It's just kind of my deal on it.
I mean, I shot I used to have a shield with the green laser on it, and I love it. I like it because it's cool, because it's a laser. But more importantly, it's like a training thing too. You know, you have to focus on where that laser is as opposed to looking through your sights. So I think if you're willing to, you know, because some people draw their gun and they'll shoot the laser will come out and they're looking at their sights, but it's sort of like a red dot, only reversed because the laser's underneath the barrel. So you kind of have to just get that gun up and watch where that laser's pointing and then just shoot it. And once you get it down, it's fairly accurate. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. But it's like anything else, technology breaks. So you just have to make sure that you can shoot both ways.
Yeah.
I'm personally not a big laser fan. I know a lot of people use them and like them, but I don't particularly care for them.
Laser beams.
Yeah, it might be good for you know, like moving target situational stuff, maybe, especially if you're not as trained. You know, like I think all of us here probably trained well enough to where when we put the gun up, we don't really think about aligning the sights. It kind of just happens. Like a lot of people may need a laser for that purpose. You know, if you shot a gun like 3 times, it might help out.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this, because honest, I know you shoot with some frequency at like 100 yards, 125 yards, that sort of thing. You've got the space to do it. So if you had just a plain handgun, let's say like a M&P 2.0C or something like that, and you've got a laser mounted on it, and you're shooting at 100 yards or 125 yards, let's say you plant that dot right in the center of the target, right? It's not going to hit where that laser is pointing at that point because the distance is so far away. Isn't that correct?
Oh, it is. Yep. Yeah, you start getting a bit of a drop around 75 and 100. You start to aim high, and then 125. I usually aim at the top of the silhouette target and usually hit about the center. But you know, as far as distance shooting, a lot of people overcompensate more than they undercompensate. A lot of people like aim above the target when they don't have to, because it's still only about 6 to 8 inches or so, I think.
Okay. And so I would think then if you're into lasers and you're depending on that for accuracy, if you're whether at a range or you just need to take a longer shot, that's something you really have to build into the equation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think if you're using lasers and you're shooting at 125, you probably have no business doing it anyway. I guess you wouldn't be using a laser. You could shoot 125, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
A lot of lasers won't pick up that distance either.
No, not unless you were at night. That's for sure. Yeah, white lights have a hard time at 125 a lot of times.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, if you're shooting something 125 yards away, you're going to jail. I mean, that's not even.
Not if it's a coyote.
Well, yes, unless it's an animal or something of that sort. But if it's a self-defense situation and you're going to use that defense as in court, good luck. Have fun.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, he was 350 yards away. I shot him. He's coming at me.
Mass shooting, maybe though.
He was coming. He was coming at me.
You were sitting in your bedroom and you saw him walk into that thing and saw him
That's
walk
true.
out.
That is true. But I don't know.
All right, so let me look here. All right, what do you think of the LWRC SMG 45? Is it a magnificent innovation or is it a solution seeking a non-existent problem?
Well, I mean, solution for a non-existent problem. I mean, we could say that about every gun then. I think if it's new and it's cool, why the hell not? But again, for me, it would have to, I can't use it here because it's a 100% illegal firearm in New York State, But I mean, if I could get my hands on something like that, I would rather have something like that than a 9mm.
Yeah, I like it for home defense. Pistol caliber carbines, subguns, stuff like that work really well for people in an apartment complex or something like that where you really can't have over penetration. And if you use hollow points, I mean, 9mm FMJ will go through like 15 layers of drywall, but the right, frangible or hollow points will, break up, and they certainly will have a lot less penetration than a rifle round. And something like a subgun with a stock, more points of contact, easier to shoot. So, if I had a daughter going to college and she was worried about home defense gun, you know, in the dorms or something like that. I don't know how legal that is, but yeah, MP5 or LWRC seems a bit much though. I don't know if I'd pay $3,000 for a sub gun.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the campus, you know.
Yeah, and three grand, that's a tough pill to swallow. There are a lot of options out there for half or even less.
Yeah, that is true.
It's true.
I didn't know it was $3,000. I mean,
It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
It might be 28 or 25.
Oh, well, in that case.
So when do you guys buy it and just send it to me, please? And then, you know, I'll let you know what I think.
I don't think they make like 5-round mags for it though. So I think
Yeah, well, you'd have to pin the mag or remove the pistol grip and all that other great stuff. So it's all good, fellas. Thanks for rubbing it in. I'll stick with my Ruger.
What about you, Big J?
I think it's cool, but not $3,000 cool. You know, I think there's many options out there. Other than that.
So what do you think about the ACOG? That's another question I got.
Oh, it's a great optic.
I don't really have any practical experience with it, so I don't want to say and then, you know, sound like a fool. I'm sure it's neat.
I think they're cool. I've never used one ever once. I mean, I'm familiar with them just in the fact that they've got the fiber optic that runs across the top. The one thing that I would be curious about is how prone is that to being damaged. That'd be the one thing I'd be curious about. Otherwise, they look really cool, and I've heard good things about them.
Well, I've actually owned 5 of them or so in my life, and I can say they are not prone to be damaged at all. They're probably the most tough, like the toughest optic you can ever buy. The only thing I don't like about them is that they're the bending aiming concept, you know, you one eye open and, you know, do that kind of thing. It's not as fast as people claim it to be, I would say. And you're probably better off with a 1-4 or 1-6, something you can bounce down and bounce back up, unless you're doing something like, you know, shit hit the fan type stuff where you're going to be, you know, out in the wilderness for a long period of time. Then the ACOG's pretty good. The 3-30 is an awesome choice. That's my favorite.
Now, let me ask you guys a question, because you all have probably more experience with optics in regards to handguns, pistols. So my question for you guys is, if you were going to go and buy one, just to kind of like get back into it, because, you know, I got the Masada coming, and I have a Vortex Venom already, which isn't a bad red dot. I mean, it's obviously not the best, not the most, you know, damage proof, I guess you could say. Like, what would you recommend to the first-time optics buyer who might be getting into it? Aside from the Vortex Venom, what would you recommend?
A Trijicon MRO is a pretty reasonable choice. It's as durable and reliable pretty much as the aim points. It's a little bit less, and it's got that bigger window, which makes people assume that it's faster because it's got a bigger window, which is easier. But yeah, Trijicon MRO, I would have recommended the Holosun, but I've actually had 2 break on me this year.
So really?
I'm going to go back to, Trijicon or aim point.
Interesting.
The T2 is the best, but it's also $700.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Now, 17, you're talking about a pistol or rifle?
Yes, pistol.
Pistol. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was going rifle optics. Yeah, the RMR is the only one I've ever really trusted.
And what do those go for on average, ballpark?
You can get the Type 1 on eBay for sometimes $300, but you have to make sure to get that little sleeve so it doesn't have the battery connectivity problems.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Good to know.
And always get lower power the better. People always recommend higher powers, but you can turn the brightness up if you want a bigger dot. You can't turn it back down if you want to shoot long range.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And if you have astigmatism, definitely get a smaller dot because it's going to bloom.
Yeah, you get a lot of that star then, don't you? Like that kind of
Yeah,
star.
I get a little bit of, it's like a flower.
Yep.
Blooming is what I call it.
Yeah. I like some of the different more budget friendly options, whether it's the Holosun or the Vortex or Burris. They do pretty well. However, if you're going to invest the money and it's something that you're potentially going to carry, that sort of thing, I'd go Trijicon too. I mean, those seem a lot more rugged, battle proven. Type 2. I mean, spend the money once, and most cuts for red dots, a lot of them are for an RMR. So your choices are going to be a little bit more wide open than some of the other plates out there.
Gotcha.
What do you guys feel about the plates anyway? I mean, personally, I like to get the optics cut specifically for the red dot, so it sits a little bit lower and it's a lot more reliable. But I've had a little rough experience with the reliability of some of the plate systems.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is too, though, when you have somebody who, and again, there's two different parties in this. There's the people who are just going to start out with it, who may be uncertain what they want at that point, and I'm kind of at that point myself. So that's why I'm not sure I want to cut any slides, because once you cut it to a particular optic, you're done. That's it. So for me, I would probably prefer the plates. And I wonder at some point, let's say you get like the Masada, which is already pre-cut. Could you actually get it post-cut? Could you cut the slide after the fact? I wonder if that's even possible. So that, let's say, for example, you get a Masada, you throw something on there, you don't like it, you get something else, you put it on there, and you're like, oh, this is the one I really want. You want it to sit a little bit lower into the slide, so you just get it cut after the fact. I don't know if you could do something like that, but that would be interesting to know.
Yeah,
Some of them you can, because you're going in the striker channel.
Yeah, I get. I was going to say, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody getting it milled after they already had the system in place.
Mm-hmm. My choices on the dot, I've got the SRO, Delta Point Pro, Hollow Sun 507, RMR. Honestly, it depends on what you're going to use it for. If you're going to competition shoot, I love the SRO. I think it's awesome. And I'm really starting to like the 507Cs. Like these a lot. But, the 507C has a tad bigger window than the RMR, just a little bit tad. So it's really clear.
So what are the advantages of the SRO over the RMR then? Because you might be the only one of us that has one.
Yeah, well, the window is round. So your Delta Point Pro and the other ones are square. So as your dot bounces, if it's square at the top, it bounces out. This one just kind of stays right in here, either under hard recoil. I can keep it in the window.
So is it similar to like the Seymour optics? Because I've used those before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And,
right, so
as far as carrying it, people are like, oh, you can't carry it. It carries just like an RMR. I've carried it, and I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, I saw it on Sage Dynamics, though. I don't think I would carry it just because he broke it like the first time he dropped it, and which makes sense, too, because the RMR is only reliable because of that cut they have on top. And since the SRO is circular, it doesn't have that, distribution of force when it hits the ground.
Yeah, and it's not for duty. It's for competition. However, most of us are not going to be, throwing it on the ground and doing all that. So
I might.
Yeah.
Like a little kid.
Yeah. I like to do like barrel rows.
Yeah, it depends on what you're going to use it for.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys keep track of all this. This is my first chat I've ever ran, for everybody who doesn't know, and the questions are wow. There's a lot of questions.
Well, one of the things I notice about StreamYard is that it goes extremely fast in regards to the chats. So what I do is I open up the window from YouTube and just use that. It goes a little bit slower. It's easier to read.
Yep, I do too. Now there are a lot of people. By the way, thank you everyone for hanging out with us tonight. The chat is crazy. I mean, we're used to kind of seeing around 80 to 100 people. So we get close to 300 people in here right now.
Oh wow!
This is exciting, and the chat is just going nuts. See a lot of friendly faces, a lot of familiar faces out there. Though.
I don't think it has anything to do that we're on Honest Outlaws channel, right? I'm sure.
No.
I'm sure it's got to be Big Johnson.
They came here for your cave sounds.
The cave sounds, right?
Yeah.
I'm just messing. All right. So I guess I think we got 2 more patron questions, and then we'll go to the chat bar here, and I'll try to answer the 5,000 we have over there. If you could only have 4 firearms, what would they be?
Good question.
That is good.
I mean, well, a handgun. I mean, I'm assuming they're asking for specifics. So the handgun for me is the P01 all day, every day. Love the gun. It's fantastic. Best CZ ever made, in my opinion. I know you guys are going to, the Shadow 2 and blah, 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 but it's the P01 for me. Rifle, and this is going to sound crazy, one of my rifles that I'd want to have is a Marlin 30-30. I love the lever actions. Absolutely love them. I would want a shotgun, probably a 590A1, favorite shotgun I've ever owned. And if I could own a big boy rifle in the state of New York, I personally would get an AK-47, not an AR. But that's me.
About you, Big J?
I would have my CZP09, 590A1, I would have my 1522 because you got to kill small game, and I would have my Lancer 308 heavy metal.
It's a good choice. KS?
I just saw somebody say your loss, KS Gun Guy. I'm not sure what that meant. But anyway, so 4 guns, I would say a Glock 19 is kind of a do-all. It's boring, I realize, but I like them, and they're easy to work on. Parts are plentiful, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about that a lot. So that's my boring handgun. I think the exciting handgun would be something like a Shadow 2. I'd like to have 2 handguns, one that's more for just fun and enjoyment, that sort of thing. I would go, but we lost one down. I would say probably AR pistol, maybe. I would do that. I've got that 10.5-inch dagger defense build that I did, and I've enjoyed that quite a bit. So I'd like to have the rifle flexibility with that. It's funny. I had thought about a shotgun, and shotguns are all fine and good, but I actually would probably also go with a PDW, like a 9mm, like the CMMG Banshee, something like that. Just for kind of like you were talking about earlier, kind of that close quarters engagement where you want a little bit more stability, more of a platform for optics or lights, that sort of thing. So kind of an odd mix there. That's what I'd go with.
That's a good choice. Now you guys got me thinking. I was going to pick different things, and now I don't know. I got to go with my Shadow 2 is the number one. That's the gun I shoot the most. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, the gun I carry the most is probably between my PO7 and my I'll probably go with my PO7. It seems like my favorite all-time. Like I agree with you with the PO1. Like if you're gonna have a gun for everything, that's a really good choice. Double action, so it's easy to carry. I like carrying double action. They're lightweight, they're good enough for a fight for sure. If I gotta go shotgun, I go Benelli Super Vinci. I love that shotgun. And I'll probably go with my 3-gun AR-15. Which is a V7.
Nice.
All right. Any of you guys see a question on the chat you guys want? I think looks cool, or?
Let's see.
I feel bad we can't answer them all.
Well, somebody just said, "All right, you dirty whores. What are all your unbiased opinions on scars?" They look cool. Probably not very practical.
If you get one kind of that goes down your face,
yeah,
that's the way to do it.
Chicks dig scars, man.
Honest, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can.
Okay, I don't know what was going on with that echo, but I guess it's gone away now.
Yeah, it appears to be. Yep.
Somebody was asking a question earlier if we could talk a little bit about the Masada.
Hang on, what about the scar?
Yeah, we'll go back. Yeah, we'll get that.
Sorry.
What do you think, Big J?
I mean, I've had the Scar 16. I think it's a nice rifle. I think you can really get a really nice AR. I don't like the UGG boot. The cheek weld sucks for me, and especially if you have a beard, I'm sure it sucks for you. I just think there's better options out there. I don't think it does anything better than a really nice AR would. They look cool, and they've been in a bunch of videos, but that's kind of about it for me.
Yes.
I've never shot one. I've certainly looked at them fondly from a distance. They are cool-looking firearms, but they seem like they would be pretty big and bulky, and perhaps not as practical when you can do something a little bit lighter that offers reasonable firepower as well. So no real experience. I've been next to one at the range, and that's an unpleasant experience. Scar 17 is really loud indoors at a range, just so you know. But they look cool. I mean, they really do. They've got the cool factor going on.
I've owned the 17 and the 16, and I've actually had an upgraded 16 as well, so kind of had the whole spectrum. And I got to say that maybe 10 years ago, they might have been one of the best rifles in the world, but I think they really missed the wagon when it came to like AR accessibility, like accessorizing it, like at least since the war on terror, AR's come a long way. And if you shoot one next to a 16, like honestly, you're not sure why you have a 16. The bolt is a little bit slower. I think there's a little more recoil. It's heavier, more cumbersome. It through the military test, it was more reliable, but it's also way more as far as price tag goes. Mm-hmm. I think they're cool for sure. But if I had to pick an AR up or that for any circumstance, it would be the AR.
Yeah.
And I would pick the Bren over the Scar personally.
I've heard that. I haven't tried one, but I've heard that from a bunch of people.
The Bren 2 is awesome. That thing is sweet.
Okay. Recommendations for teaching pistol for my 8-year-old twins. I would go with probably some sort of 22 pistol. Smith & Wesson 22 would be a really good choice. The Ruger, what is it, Mark? What's the new one?
Mark 4.
That would be a really good choice. You don't want to scare them away with recoil for sure. It seems funny, but they might not like a gun for the rest of their life because of that. You want to make it fun. And when my dad taught me with single shots. So I really had to focus on hitting the target, and the target became kind of the, hitting it became the enjoyment factor as opposed to just blowing ammo.
Mm-hmm. Now, I actually started my son with a Walther PPQ airsoft gun, where it's basically a PPQ ergonomically. It's the same gun, just obviously shoots the little pellets out of it, but just to get the real grip technique down, and go from there, and then go to like a 22 to get that little bit more recoil. Because when you have that reciprocating slide on that airsoft gun, it's a lot of realism behind that. And then you bump it up to the 22 and then eventually something from there. So, I mean, that's how I started with my son. Doesn't mean it's going to be, what all of you guys do, but definitely I thought it was a good idea. And then the 22 afterwards.
That's smart. I didn't think of that. I shoot an airsoft gun. I have a 2011 Anasazi style full metal airsoft gun that I practice with sometimes.
Yeah, it's a viable solution.
Yeah.
How about you?
Also, what I would recommend is a course of 22. I never really played with airsoft personally, but I'm from the older crowd. I mean, my grandfather handed me a 45 1911 and said, "Shoot this." So that's how that's the first pistol I ever shot. But I think with Glock and even CZ, like my P09, I've got the conversion kit, that turns it into a 22, and it's super easy. It's only and you don't need a FFL or anything for it. They mail it to your house, but that's an inexpensive way to do it, to where the father could teach on the gun that maybe the kid might be using later on down the road, as far as a 9mm. And they're a lot of fun, and they're very reliable. I mean, I know the P09 is very reliable, but that's just another option. But I have 22 pistols too, and I just love shooting 22 personally. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would echo that. And I too, I started with a 45 in my hand at a very young age. That just about blew me over. But I would say 22 pistol is a good place to start. Airsoft is a great idea as well. I've never shot one, never played with one before, so I don't have any real world experience with what they feel like. Some of them look very real though. But yeah, I would definitely go 22, something very light. I mean, kind of like you said, you want to start them out and make it enjoyable, so they can concentrate on developing skills and technique, that sort of thing, and not get shocked. I mean, I took a friend of mine. She was an adult, probably mid-20s or so, first time shooting, and we shot just a 9mm, and it was too much. That was too much to start with, along with being at the range and everything. There's a lot of stimulus going on, a lot of sounds and a lot of action and that sort of thing. And it was a little too much. So that was kind of a lesson learned for me. Okay, let's dial it down a notch, and work from there. And that probably would have made it a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, and even with the rifles, I started my son with a 22 on that, and then I got the Ruger PC, so he's actually going to be shooting that with me, just to kind of give it a little bit more of a bump up in regards to the recoil and just the handling of the gun. And I think with a kid, you got to start small. You don't want to make them afraid, and then then you just can't get them back, and that's not what I want to do. I definitely want to make sure that they're prepared and know how to handle things and so on and so forth. And as he gets bigger, we up the caliber. So we'll go from a 22 to a 9, and then eventually I'll just go to a 50 BMG, and then we'll go from there. We're just skipping right through to 50. So,
but in a Derringer format, right?
Yeah, very small. Yeah. So I can dislocate his arm.
Right. His whole upper half would be dislocated, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. Bullpups. Or did you go, KS? I don't know. I'm hard to keep track. I'm trying to read.
No, I definitely went. And okay. I found another good question out there eventually. But you'd asked about bullpups.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions about bullpups. They just basically asked, what do we think of bullpups?
Tavor 7 just released.
Man, I tell you, I would love to have one. I don't know why. I just think they're so, and I think we even talked about this one night, that I would pick something like that in that format, just because it's kind of it's not your prototypical anything. It's its own, own thing. You know what I mean? So like the Divorce, so sweet. I would love to own one of those. Obviously I wouldn't mind having an AUG or an AUG. I mean, those are pretty sweet. Obviously not necessarily the same thing, but very similar. But it's never going to happen, guys. It makes me so sad. I feel like when I talk about cool guns, I feel like crying. I'm not going to lie.
I like the Bullpup design. I think they're cool too. I think there's not only a cool factor. I like the fact that it's it's a full length. I mean, 16 inches or longer sort of barrel, so you're getting it that velocity advantage and sight radius and all that. However, it's still in a very compact package. All the action is behind, your trigger and all that. So I think they're cool. And I would totally agree on the Tavor. I've been fascinated by those since the first time I ever saw one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Tavor is very cool, and the Steyr and the other ones. But there's, and I know that other people will say this too. There is a learning curve. I've shot one, and it's like if you shot ARs most of your life, or for a lot of time, for most of the time, you're like, okay, where the hell is everything? It's kind of weird to get used to pulling the mag out from the back and all that. And of course, that's a training issue. If you train with it, that's the one you use all the time, you're going to get familiar with it. And right out of the box, honestly, even on the X95, the trigger kind of sucks. So you got to, upgrade to the trigger pack, which is another $200. I mean, you can get a lot of money behind an AR or behind a Tavor. And if you really think about it, you can get an AR pistol, with an SB tactical brace way under that, and it does the same damn thing. So now, of course, like KS said, you're going to lose some velocity with the barrel unless you get like a 14.5 pinned or something. But when you're in that, it's kind of like, okay, you lost that whole deal of QCB stuff, or close quarters CQB. But I don't know. For the price, I would rather have an AR pistol personally.
Yeah, I think that there's some ergonomic issues that you can get over, but I think there's some mechanical issues you can't get over. Like the linkage in the trigger is a problem with the design. That's why a lot of them don't have a good trigger. Like the Desert Tech has the best trigger that I've tried, the X95 second best. Another problem you're going to have is shooting prone. It's a real issue, especially if you're not well trained with it. It's all over the place because the front of the rifle, it's a huge advantage, especially like stacking indoors and stuff like that, because you can get out of the way. You can hold the rifle up for a long time because the center of gravity is in the back. It's in the stock. But shooting prone, it's a nightmare. And because you have nothing to monopod off. Like a lot of people say not to monopod off the AR-15 magazine.
Yeah.
If you have good magazines, you can do it just fine. AK, you can do it just fine. But there's some issues with that. Like you said, American shooters especially have a problem with the ergonomics, but that's something you really can get over. If you get an X95 or a Desert Tech, they have very similar controls. It's easy to learn the bolt release, and as far as the magazine release, it's usually up front, right where your trigger finger wants to be anyway. So, yeah, there's pros and cons. The velocity increase is real though. Like especially if you look at a 10.5 or 11.5, lethality's out to like 100, 150 as far as like tumbling and all that. Where with the same size of Bullpup, you can push that up to 300 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So we are getting some interesting questions here. I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, fire them off. Yeah, I can't keep.
So somebody just asked, when it comes to a carry gun, what's the best for new people to carry? Striker, single action, double action, and etc. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, for me, I like double action, especially for appendix carry. But as far as like 3-4 o'clock, even outside the waistband, it doesn't really matter as long as you have a quality holster. I think it's just whatever you feel comfortable with. A lot of times people like safety starting off. People discount that, but whatever gets you to carry, in my opinion.
Yeah. There are a couple of schools of thought with that. I would give the edge a little bit towards striker because it's the consistent trigger pull all the way through. Oftentimes they're lighter, they're polymer typically, so people might be more encouraged to carry them. Excuse me. But the advantage to double action, single action, I think that's probably a better training sort of platform, because you've got that heavy double action pull. And if you can master that, I think you probably shoot just about anything you want. And like you said, appendix double action is going to be more favorable for more people. They're more comfortable with that idea, that heavier trigger, less likely to go off perhaps. I probably would go striker, just from the light capability of it. It's lighter, easier to carry, I think, for a lot of people. And again, consistent trigger pull.
But you, 17.
I guess it's kind of a mixture, kind of like what Honest was saying, the idea that it's what you feel most comfortable with. I like carrying double single, but I also carry striker fired guns too. The first gun I ever bought was a CZP-01, just because I wanted to be able to have, feel a little more confident carrying. And I think that's where it all boils down to. What's going to bring you the most confidence to carry effectively and make sure that you have a round in the chamber? Because, there are those people out there, they wind up getting a striker-fired handgun. It's not necessarily, a gun that they're familiar with or maybe trained well with it or have experience with. So they're less likely maybe to put a round in the chamber. And for me, I would say start with double single action, learn some fundamentals first, and then go from there. But again, we're all going to have different opinions. I mean, it's basically whatever you're comfortable with.
For that school of thought, I would say double action, single action first. And the reason I say that, it does give you double strike capability. You don't have to rack it if somebody fudges and screws up or maybe throws their first shot. They can just pull it again. They don't, have to rack it or something like that. It's probably going to be a lot easier for them. Plus, I think it teaches better trigger discipline because they are going to have that first, harder pull. Even if it's decocked, it's going to put it in a half cocked position. Now this is, but then again, if somebody, I always, I've played dumb before and went into gun stores and, hey, I'm looking for a gun, and they're like, oh, Glock 19. A lot of people will just lead you towards a Glock 19, but I say it's whatever your hand feels comfortable with, whatever your budget is. And if it's a really, really cheap gun, I'd say save up a little bit, get a better quality pistol. But I would recommend double action, single action first. And then as you get more proficient, then maybe go into a striker fire.
What's really nice about double action, like something like a PO1 or a PO7, is that if you guys do a lot of dry fire, and if you shoot it all, you really should. I probably do 3 times the dry fire practice than I actually shoot. And if you can, like KS said, if you can master that double action trigger, the other good thing about it is you don't have to reset the slide every time you shoot.
Right.
So you can just keep pulling the trigger, You can do that 500 times in a night, and before you know it, you can pull the trigger without the sights moving at all, and then you're good to go. And then obviously you have to make sure that you test that on paper as well with actual rounds. But,
There was also another question. Somebody was asking, what would you recommend for an elderly woman in regards to handgun?
Well, that Smith & Wesson EZ for sure.
Easy all day long.
Made perfect for it.
Yeah, totally agree.
I agree.
All day long. Yep.
I get a lot of questions about the 43X. What do you guys think of that?
I'm a big fan. I have 2, one for carry and one for show. I like them. I think they're good guns.
I had a 48 and 43, and right now I have a Shield 2.0 4-inch. Let's put it that way. I mean, they're good guns, but I preferred the Shield.
And, I agree. I mean, I think that the 43X and the 48 are both great guns. Depends on what you're going to use it for, your hand size, things like that. I personally, still have the Shield, and I run a +2 on it, so I've got 10+1, and it works great for me, and I don't see any reason to change personally. But get what works for you.
Yeah, I think the Shield, even though I'm a 43X guy, I carry that over a Shield, and I do have them both. I think the Shield's better out of the box. If you're not into tinkering, you don't want to put a trigger in it, put some sights on it, Shield's the way to go.
Yeah. I agree.
The 43X for me is awesome because I have the Johnny Glock trigger in it, and then I have a Miracle of sights, and that really helps out the accuracy. But yeah, what do you guys think of the impending body armor ban?
I
should think possible.
I mean, I think it's BS. I mean, I say if you think you were going to get it, you might want to go ahead and get it. But I think that it's stupid that they're even thinking about that. Personally, and you know, I've said this before, anything the military has or police have, we should have. You know, it's basically, why would we disarm, you know, civilians? You know, bad guys are going to get them on the street if they want it. And hell, it's going to come down to a point where if you still have them or you can find them, people are going to start wrapping phone books around them and freaking Sears catalogs and shit like that. I mean, you know, I just think it's a joke. You know, they're going for anything that they see somebody wear and whatever. You know, they're thinking, oh, you don't need that. That's ridiculous.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, banning body armor would obviously prevent a lot of crime. So I can see their logic in that because body armor commits a lot of crime. It's dumb. You know, it's the same thing with AR style rifles and pistols. They have a different look to them than their wood laden counterparts, right? And so in fact, I was talking with a family member about this, who's kind of very middle of the road, doesn't really care about guns, yay or nay. So kind of right in the middle, right? And that's the kind of person you want to talk to. You know, try and sway him over as best you can, but carefully. But this person, some of the words that they were using sounded very much like they were coming straight from the media. The media clearly has a big impact on people's perception of things. And one of those is anytime they talk about something horrific, they immediately post up a picture of, you know, an AR because it looks different and it looks more tactical, right? More military or law enforcement, when in fact, we all know it's a sporting rifle. It really has no different capabilities than the exact same firearm with wood furniture on it. It just has a different look to it. And so it's the same thing with body armor. Anything that looks tactical, people don't want you to have. I don't understand it.
So kind of coming from a perspective in a state where everything and anything is banned for the most part. First off, I think the problem is that nobody wants to have a rational argument. I mean, give me a rational reason why we should not have body armor, why we should not have 30-round magazines, why should we not have assault rifles. I mean, give me a rationale behind that makes sense. You know, if you want to use statistics, use statistics. Go back to the original gun ban or the assault weapons ban they had. When was that? Like 94, I think, or something like that.
The Brady bill.
You know, and you show me statistically how and if crime actually went down, or violent crime with the use of firearms went down. It actually went up.
It went up.
So you know, we can sit here and we can debate, you know, this and that, but again, they should not be dictating to us. And this is coming from a guy who lives in New York State, and we deal with this every day. Now, I've been watching comments from people saying I should just move out of New York State. It's not that easy, guys. It is not. All right. Yes, you can say that, well, if you're living behind enemy lines and you're dealing with it, you should just move. But that's the problem. So many people have moved, and now they've moved into other states where these same laws are being passed. So, I mean, how much time or how much more do you expect people to run away from instead of actually staying and fighting, so that we don't have these problems? And I think what the biggest problem that I have with that mentality is that if people would have supported other states when they were going through this, instead of going back and saying, well, it's not my state, I don't really care. By the way, that's Yankee Marshall for you. My biggest problem is, why then are you complaining now? Because California and New York State have been the two biggest petri dishes in regards to gun laws, and they've destroyed the states. I mean, New York State sucks, and it used to be a great state, and now it's terrible. You know, in regards to body armor, going back to that, somebody mentioned kids with backpacks. So that means you're gonna ban bulletproof backpacks for kids, because you know, they can sit here and say, well, you know, schools are safe. They're not safe. There's no way to make a school safe. That's not possible. Okay, you can say whatever you want. You know how many openings and doorways there are in schools? Especially if, let's say, a school's on the first floor. You're going to bulletproof every window? You're going to blast-proof every window? Of course you're not. So it's like they don't want a rational argument. They don't want a rational discussion, because they know if they did, they'd lose all day long. And that's kind of my rant. Sorry, fellas.
It's a good rant.
No, you covered a lot there. Yeah, that was impressive.
I'll throw in one more thing. Okay. You know, when these incidents, and I don't call them the MS word because I don't want to, these incidents that happen, okay, they pick on these incidents, and that's when they go after gun grabs and start preaching all this stuff. All you have to do is look at Chicago. More people die there per day than any of these incidents, period. but they have the strictest gun laws, supposedly. Okay, so that right there shows you bad guys are going to get guns. So you can't use these incidents as an example. That place is, I mean, in certain areas of it, I've been to Chicago many times, but in certain areas of it, it's a freaking toilet. So, but they don't worry about that. They have tons of cops. They even get more cops, and it still is a situation. And then look at this other deal with this, guy just happened in Philly. I mean, crazy people and people that have records, a mile long, they're going to get guns. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And those are not the legal people buying guns. So, and you're going to have crazy people and medicated people, etc. So don't hinder us, the good guys, to protect ourselves from those people. And if there's more people carrying guns, they need to open it up like Switzerland. Everybody has to have a gun, period, in your family. You got to have a gun and a box of ammunition. So go think about way back. Hitler didn't take over what area? There was a reason.
That in the mountains.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That they fly airplanes out of.
Yeah, but I agree.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. It's all scare tactics. If they were concerned about statistics, like you said, like what is it? Like half of gun crime is suicides, and half of that is gang affiliated, crime, and then I think out of that, of what's left of that, I think only 4% of that is rifles.
Yeah.
So they ban it because they're trying to scare you. And at the end of the day, every politician, at least from my experience, just wants to get elected. They don't want to solve problems. They want to promise you things that they can't deliver, because that's what people get voted in for. You know what I mean?
Well,
they're not trying to save you.
Peter King is a great example of that. He's supposedly first off, Peter King has never been a Republican.
No,
he is a pretend Republican. He's always been a pretend Republican. He lives in a district where it's fighting for his political survival, and that's the only thing he gives two shits about. So we go to politicians, but they never do anything because they have forgotten the essence of what they have sworn an oath to, which is the Constitution. It's not to their political action committees. It's not to their, their colleagues in Congress that don't do anything half the time they're there. So, until there's an organization that will actually go out and challenge the idea of literally removing all of these bums out of office, and I'm not talking about violence and all that other shit. I'm talking about politically removing them, whether it's recall, whatever it might be, and getting some people in there who actually want to actually swear an oath to the Constitution. And unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. And, we don't. And New York State's, I'm telling you guys, this has been something that's been in the works for a long time. I've said it a million times on my channel that watch, what happens here is going to happen with where you're at. And yes, you can fight all you want, but ultimately it's not going to work. And what they're pushing for are ban this, ban that, but with no substance to it, with absolutely zero substance. So you have a couple of crazy people. So that crazy person, if they go out there and look at the guy who stabbed a bunch of people over in, California. I don't see a ban or a push for, getting rid of knives. They did it in London, and that didn't work.
That didn't work.
So I just think, this whole talk about banning and this and that, and, but again, it's all the best thing you can do in where you're at. And this is what I try to do, especially in my area, is you talk to people who are anti-gun, you make a rational presentation as to why that chain of thought or whatever chain of thinking is not necessarily the most conducive. And then you basically encourage them to change their thoughts and go out and get themselves a permit, go out and get themselves a gun. And I've actually had conversations with people like that have changed their minds just because I present a rational argument as to why, in my opinion, you should have a gun and why they're useful. Because the politicians, what they don't say when they say the police are going to protect you and all that other bullshit, I've said this already to all you guys. My police department here where I live, they stop working at midnight. So after midnight, there's no police, none. If you make a 911 call, you get a state trooper who could be on the other end of the county. And then you get the county sheriff who could also be on the other end of the county. So that response time could be an hour, could be 2 hours. And if any politician thinks that I'm going to wait 2 hours to have the ability to make sure that my two children and my beautiful wife are safe, they're out of their freaking minds. It ain't happening. And that's it.
Well, the majority of politicians don't even understand your your situation at all. Most of those guys, you know, like Bernie Sanders, career politician, you know, they're all millionaires. They all have private security. They just don't live in the same world you live in. You know, they can't even understand you don't have a panic room with a bunch of armed guards.
Sure.
You know, and like you said, yeah, my sheriff's department, I called them today because of the horses. You know, I was trying to figure out who the horses were. They literally didn't even call me back for an hour. You know what I mean? Like I would be, you know, what if that was a serial killer? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's
they could be killer horses. You don't know.
No, you don't know.
Yeah, right? Zombie horses. But
I told you to test out. I told you to test out some bareback shooting there.
Yeah, hop on one. They're a little quicker than me.
Oh,
They didn't want to color. Yeah, but you know, I think carrying a gun is about accountability. You know, like, am I going to rely on somebody that may or may not be there to protect my wife and my family? No. You know what I mean? Like, that's my job. It's been that for, you know, since the beginning of time. You know, you are accountable for the people that you love. And you either are or you aren't, you know?
Right.
Well, and I don't really want to bring this into the mix, but the time when men were men, some of that's gone away. Okay. And I'm not picking on anybody, but it's people are so dependent on other people nowadays. You know, they can't do stuff for themselves. I know grown ass men that can't change a tire, you know, so if they didn't get a cell signal and they're stuck out in the middle of nowhere, they're actually just going to die, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just men either, you know, like I always tell my wife, I was like, Samuel Colt made all men and women equal. You know what I mean? Like the guy my size is going after my wife when she's on a run. What's she going to do besides shoot me? You know what I mean? Like that's when my wife open carries, you know, where she runs at the park. Good. You know, a couple miles away, there's been a few rapes and there's been one attempted murder, and like, you know, mess with my wife and see what happens. You know, she can shoot pretty well.
And that's and that's the thing too. I mean, that's where the message has to come out from our end, you know, because I think the attempt to try to convince politicians is not going to work. But I think what we need to do is we need to kind of go behind people who are not necessarily the most apt to carry a gun, whether it be females, whether it be, you know, soy boys, whether it be even, you know, anybody, and encourage them to own a firearm or at least get a permit. And even if they don't want to buy a firearm, at least they're on the books as having the ability to carry and to operate a firearm. I just think that's the only way to combat this, because power or numbers, whatever the hell it's saying, I don't even know. But the power does come from numbers. And the more we can improve those numbers, whatever community it is, whether it's female, gay, straight, white, black, Hispanic, whatever it is, if we can encourage legal gun ownership and increase that number, ultimately there's going to be a little bit of a pushback, because the politicians are going to know that they can't just shove this down our throat. And I think that's the biggest problem we have right now, is that you don't really have any organizations that are that mouthpiece for doing that. Some would say the NRA, some would say the Gun Owners of America, but I don't know about you guys, but I don't see ads. I don't hear anything. You know, we can blame everybody for being complacent in this. And until they all kind of get together and say, this is what we're going to do, and we are going to go on a mass campaign state by state, all 50, and make people go to their local places where they need to carry or get a license or whatever it is, just like voting. How do politicians win in elections? They go door to door with a grassroots movement of getting people to vote. Same thing with gun ownership. You need to go door to door in a lot of rural communities, maybe even urban communities where, you know, crime is at an all-time high, and explain to them why there is a usefulness and a purpose behind the Second Amendment and their right to own a firearm. And that's all it takes, in my opinion. But again, this is just one guy who, you know, if I could change the world, it'd be great. But, you know, unfortunately, we don't really have those mouthpieces.
Yeah, I think of it as the Second Amendment is there to protect all the other amendments. It's, you know, if that goes, everything else is on the line. Essentially, there's nothing protecting freedom of speech and freedom of religion and so on and so forth. It's there that the forefathers, I think, were very forward thinking. They weren't thinking about the here and now militias as much as I think they were thinking long term. We want the people to be able to defend themselves and defend the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and uphold what we consider very sacred, our right to freedom here. That to me is the Second Amendment. It's not people try and pick apart little words here, regulated militia and everything. No, take a step back and look at it from a 30,000 foot view. It's there to protect everything. So don't take it away.
Well, even those words, the well-regulated militia. Well, what was the job of the militia? The militia was to protect the community.
Right.
That's what they're there for. And now they can say, oh, no, it was to call up a standing army. Well, yeah, it was that too. But at the same time, it's also to protect the local communities, the farms, and everything else. So, again, not a viable argument.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are preaching to the choir. You know, I mean, it's
true.
You know, we can say this, and that's, you know, part of like what YouTube's doing. You know, they're trying to shut down our 2A, but yet, you know, or they want to silence our first and our second. You know, take the second, but they want to keep their first, and it, you know, it can't work both ways. And you know, we could go on about this for days. So. They should shut the hell up and leave everybody alone is what they need to do.
Yeah.
Go ban straws and other shit that they're worried about. Give me a break.
So we're at an hour here, so I probably call it a night now, do you guys think, or what?
Whatever you think.
Whatever you want to do, buddy.
Time.
How about we take one more question? Does anybody have a really good question they see?
Well, there was a question earlier, and I don't remember his name now. It's been long enough, so I apologize for that. But he was talking about thoughts on surplus firearms, whether it be handguns, rifles, whatever. I thought that was kind of an interesting question. We really don't talk about surplus firearms very much.
I mean, I've looked at them, you know, I think a lot of times what I base everything on is unfortunately it's price. You know, I have to be very, very picky and choose what I can afford first off. I mean, there's some guns that sometimes I look on Gunbroker and I'm like, man, I would love that, you know, because it's just a cool, unique type of handgun. You know, while I would not consider that Beretta 90-2 a surplus gun, that's one of the reasons why I picked that up. And if I could find something that was decent, I would consider it, especially rifled. But again, it's always about price for me. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with those things.
Go ahead, Cass.
I'm all in favor of surplus handguns or any type of firearm, especially if there's some sort of historical, maybe like World War I, World War II, or even further back than that, some sort of historical significance to them. You know, if I could find a really cool, you know, old 1911, that sort of thing. I always love stuff like that. I mean, there is, you know, it's one of the first firearms I ever shot, so there's certainly a personal connection to that. But I think it's really cool. I sometimes you can find some really weird, bizarre stuff. There was a small collection that went on consignment at Centerfire. This might have been a month or two ago. And there were some wacky firearms in there. I mean, it's really cool, weird stuff. Some old CZs and different things like that. That stuff's really cool to me. I mean, it really is. It might not be practical for today, you know, everyday carry or anything, but just from a collection standpoint, I think it's really cool.
I actually like them. There's some stuff that, you know, they're kind of like Mosin Nagants and stuff. I mean, as long as they run and they'll serve their purpose. And I actually have some older stuff. They're not just a barrel, you know, stuff in a barrel. I mean, they're actually really nice collector pieces, and I shoot them. But I think if it's a budget issue and you're looking for a nice long gun and you can find one that's very clean and that everything works, by all means, get it. You know, and if you look at a lot of the areas like SKSs and stuff, you know, especially in 17 state, you know, those are legal. So, you know,
for now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, 7.62 by 39 is no joke. So, I mean, it'll take care of what you need to do with it. So I say those are, and you can find them pretty good prices. Not so much the German one or the Russian ones anymore, but you know, the Norinkos and stuff, you can find pretty good deals on them. But yeah, I'm all for them. And even some of the ammo, you know, if you get them sealed up, that stuff lasts forever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, people discount old stuff always. I get all that on my channel all the time. You couldn't do anything with that, But the reality is, if it reliably shoots bullets, you can do a lot with it. It matters more about your trigger finger and your state of mind and all that stuff than it does the actual gun you're shooting. You know, I mean, a guy like 1776, if you only have a Winchester 1873 and 357 Magnum, and 5 guys shoot to break, likely there's going to be 5 guys that wish they didn't. You know, and it's a 150-year-old gun. You know, if it reliably works, and a lot of the surplus guns do, Makarovs, Tokarevs, all those are going to work great. You know, so yeah, I mean, if you're into it and you think it's cool, hell yeah, buy it.
Yep.
Nice.
I agree.
All right, so you guys want to let everybody know what you're doing on your channels, and then we'll head out for the night.
Sure. Go ahead, guys.
Cass?
Well, yeah, have the CMMG Banshee coming up. If I could only have one with the Shadow 2 and the X5 Legion. Very excited for that. And then I'm not sure after that. I have some other ones I need to review. I just haven't decided which one. But anyway, thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us on a Wednesday night. We really appreciate it. And Honest, thanks for hosting. We appreciate that as well.
What's 17?
So I got a couple of gun reviews coming whenever they get out of New York jail. The Masada, the Caracol, which I'm super. I've been waiting for that gun for so long, and it's the fucking judge will not sign the damn coupon. So I'm cursing because it's on your channel, Honest, and I don't care if it gets demonetized because it already is. But
It is.
You know, I'm so sick of it, the process. So I've got those two. I sent the Beretta 90-2 out to get stippled and also Cerakoted. So I'm pretty excited for that gun. I never even did a review on the table or anything, but I'll do that once it comes back. Got the Ruger PC, which I'm going to shoot with my boy. And, you know, we'll go from there. And just, you know, thanks for hosting. And if you guys haven't subscribed to any of us, please do. Because we're always trying to grow our channels, man. Try to get, you know, the word out, so to speak.
Yeah, first I want to say thanks for hosting, Honest. You know, we got a great group of guys here. You know, we're a pretty tight-knit group. Check us out on Instagram and each one of our channels. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And I have got some more Red Dot stuff coming up. Going to be getting a gun back from customization in probably about a week. And I will be dropping another one off. So I'm excited about those. And I'm going to be doing a lot of dot comparisons between the SRO, Delta Point Pro, and other stuff. And I got a really neat little, you can check it on Instagram, but I got a neat little new device and I'm testing that thing out. It's pretty cool. So tune in. We appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for the family for tuning in for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And if you haven't subbed to these guys, like I said, we do this chat every week, or at least we try to. At the same time, Wednesday, 7 o'clock, and we always are pretty much as dumb as we are this time. So, but
That's right.
They're way better at hosting the chat than me. I'm horrible, and they're actually on time when they do it. So
we've had 2.5 years to mess things up a lot, and we certainly have. So, but yeah, we exchange host duties every week, so you kind of have to follow all of us so you can join in the madness.
And we put alerts out so you'll know ahead of time. But yeah, we rotate channels.
And I apparently don't, but yeah.
Hey man, it's your first time.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on the chat. It will not be the last time. And thanks everybody for watching. And if we didn't get your question this time, definitely put it in next time. This stuff goes so fast, it's hard to read. And if you're a Patron supporter of mine and you want me to answer any question at all, you can either direct message me or you can put it in the, we can just message me and I can answer it on the chat, or I can answer it privately, whatever you guys want. But thanks for watching. Really appreciate all the support. Thanks for keeping Honest Outlaw alive since we're demonetized. Patron supporters out there, thank you. And thank these guys also for getting me into doing chats and stuff, because I'm horrible at it.
Great job tonight.
Yeah. All right, I will let you guys go and talk to you later.
All right, fellas.
Thanks everyone.
Have a good
Carry
night.
on.
See you, everybody.